So you just logged into Rise of Kingdoms and you see the infamous, the dreadful fate changer screen. You just learned that you were zeroed and now you're wondering, what do I do? Am I screwed? Is it over? Am I cooked, Omniarch? I get this question quite a bit here on the channel, and as somebody who was in fact zeroed back in I think 2021, today I'm gonna give you guys 9 tips on what you should do as soon as you get zeroed in Rise of Kingdoms, because listen, I get it. It feels bad, man. You feel a little bit hopeless. Your army is basically non-existent. So let's jump right into it. But first, what's going on, guys? Cheers. Now, before we begin, of course, as you guys know, I'm a partnered creator with Rise of Kingdoms, which means that they support a few videos on the channel every month like this one. But the most important support comes when you guys dropping a thumbs up and subscribing down below. We're officially on the road to 100,000 subscribers. Okay, so I have 9 tips for you guys here, and the first one is arguably the most important, and that is do not quit over getting zeroed. That makes absolutely no sense, even though I know it feels really bad. Sometimes it's a little bit embarrassing, like, oh yikes, I was just zeroed. Like, that's kind of like, I could have done something about it and I didn't, and like that doesn't feel very good. But here's why it makes no sense to quit Rise of Kingdoms after getting zeroed. And honestly, lots of people ask me this, right? They're like, I feel like quitting, should I just quit? And the reason that it makes no sense to quit after getting zeroed is because a vast majority of your progress in this game does not come from your troops being trained. After getting zeroed, all of your buildings remain the same level. So if you're city hall level 25, all the progress that you made on your buildings is still there. Likewise, if you come into your academy, all the progress that you've made on your academy and getting tier 4 or tier 5 units, all of that stays the same. All of the commanders that you get on your account, you still have them. All of your equipment, all of your armaments, all of this stuff remains on your account even after getting zeroed. In fact, the only things that you lose when you get zeroed are your troops and your resources if you actually are fully zeroed, right? Like if the enemy is actually able to plunder everything on your account, then yes, you lose those resources. But here's the thing, right? This is a war game at the end of the day. Those troops were never going to be permanent. They were never going to stay on your account forever. Inevitably, they were going to die at some point, and those resources were inevitably going to be spent. And I know it still feels horrible because they were wasted in the least efficient way possible, and those resources were just given to your enemy. I know it feels bad, right? And I'm not trying to downplay that, especially if you're a free-to-play player, because it does take a really long time to train back those troops, right? It's over a day to train 2,000 units, and you might have lost 1 million of them, right? So I get it. I get how bad it feels, okay? But understand that even with all of that being said, a majority of your progress stays on your account after getting zeroed, and that is the key, and that is why quitting, starting over doesn't make any sense. Okay, I had people ask me, should I start over and go back and create a new account? No, that's gonna take even more time to recover if you go that route, unless you're like a week into your server or something like that. Another thing to remember is that if you are in KVK, there's a good chance that you're going to get a big chunk of those units back after KVK is over. Never forget that the Hall of Heroes exists, and by default you're going to get 50% of your unit deaths back, and I believe that this number might actually go up when the ranking of the KVK goes up as well. Yeah, extra units returned up to 60% total. So go in here and check if you're in KVK. This is going to make you feel a little bit better, because you're gonna know, okay, at least my entire army isn't gone. Only half of it is gone, which still sucks, but you still got something left to fight with. Okay, now if you're in home kingdom, that's even worse, and that moves us to tip number 2. Figure out why you got zeroed. There's lots of reasons why you might get zeroed in Rise of Kingdoms, and whatever that reason might be, use this as a learning opportunity so that way it doesn't happen again. As you guys know, as I said earlier in this video, I was zeroed back in like 2021, and I've never even come close to getting zeroed since then. I've never put myself in a position to get zeroed, and I'm not going to sit here and say that it's not going to happen. It happens to the best of us, right? And inevitably it happens to the best of us, but but I personally have not been zeroed since then, and I know how to avoid it moving forward. Fingers crossed that I don't jinx myself now. I mean, we are in kvk after all, so maybe it'll happen this kvk and I'll look silly, but either way, here's a couple of reasons why you might have been zeroed. First of all, if you're in kvk, well, I mean, this is a war game, right? And so there's a good chance that you were offline in a zone that was not safe, and if you do this at any point in your kvk, you run the risk of getting zeroed. It is what it is. No zone is always 100% perfectly safe as long as the enemies control an adjacent pass. Like there's always going to be that small chance that you could get zeroed if things go tremendously bad in a short period of time while you're offline. Okay, so if you are in a war zone and a war is currently ongoing, or there is a chance of a war starting while you're offline, then it's probably better to either use a 24-hour peace shield, or even safer, teleport back to your starting zone, because at least this zone is safe. Some kvks you can raid them at the end of kvk, so keep that in mind, but usually you're safe if you go back to your starting zone, and this is again a learning opportunity. Another thing that you can learn here is that if you were zeroed during kvk, then there's a good chance you probably weren't in an alliance discord or a kingdom discord or something like that, because a lot of times if you are about to get zeroed and you've got a couple of friends in your alliance, or at least people that you play with who care about your account, they'll oftentimes call you, ping you, tag you, whatever, and say, hey, get online, get online, get online, get online, get online, a rally's hitting, Attila's coming, oh, your city's burning, like get online, get online. So that's another really important thing. If you're not in a discord for your kingdom or your alliance, you probably should ask what it is, because most serious kingdoms and most serious alliances have one, and you should be there. Now I know it sucks to download an additional app just to play this game, but it can save you a lot of progress in the long run, and that, I mean, it's super undervalued. Like you should be doing that. Now if you were zeroed and you are not in kvk, that means that you were zeroed in home kingdom, which is actually way worse, because that means that you don't have the Hall of Heroes to give you back your 50 or 60% of your troops remaining. And so I presume that if you're getting zeroed in home kingdom, your kingdom is probably a bit younger. You're probably having some sort of civil war. There's probably a power vacuum, or people are still fighting to figure out who's going to take control over that kingdom. And if you get zeroed during that time, I would recommend, first of all, try to figure out, were you warned? Were you offline for too long? Like what's going on here? Were you zeroed by your own alliance and they kicked you out and zeroed you? Like that feels really bad. But again, if it is pre kvk1, you probably haven't made that much progress in the game anyway, and so again, it's not worth quitting. It's not worth starting over or anything like that. You can solve this problem by just training more troops, right? And I know easier said than done, but one thing you should consider is that if you are zeroed in home kingdom, then there's a good chance that you might want to think about migrating. If there's civil wars happening and you're preparing for kvk1 and there's still not like a set structure to the kingdom, you don't have a set kingdom leadership or a single king or anything like that, you might want to migrate, because a lot of times those kingdoms, if they're unorganized, their future isn't super bright anyway, and it's just not worth sort of building your foundation in a kingdom that is just chaotic, and maybe there's tyranny and like random toxic behavior, and it's just not a good place to be. So if that's the case, it might be worth considering migrating. And luckily over the last couple of months, and even like a year or more at this point, you are able to get passports for free in the Alliance shop. Even if your alliance does not stock them, you get one per week for free. You can get enough credits for this by trading in some things that you don't care about, especially your Ethelfled sculptures. She sells for a lot, so keep that in mind. Now I know you'll have to join an alliance to do this, so maybe find a smaller shell alliance somewhere and just kind of camp out for a couple of weeks and hope that you can get enough passports to migrate in that way, and try to see if there was any sort of signs that you could have figured out beforehand. Like, were there any signs like, hey, I might get zeroed, right? Has your alliance been messaging you saying, hey, you're offline too long, you're not contributing enough to the alliance, like your power isn't high enough, whatever the case is? Like, a lot of times alliances will give you a couple of chances before kicking you and zeroing you, or a lot of times if there is a civil war, you'll probably see it coming because there will be an alliance mail or something like that. Like, again, use this as a learning opportunity. Tip number 3, and this is sort of another learning opportunity moment, but it's something that maybe you might not have considered, and this definitely is not something that will prevent prevent you from getting zeroed in the future, but it might help depending on the situation. And that is, do you have a garrison for your city, and is there one that you can easily switch to that maybe doesn't cost you very much but would have been a better choice? And for example, Charles Martel is a great option, right? This is a commander that comes around in the early game. You can get him from the gold keys for free, and a lot of his value comes at 5511 or 5551. The garrison attack here is nice because this is universal on the third skill, but really a lot of his value comes from the first two skills and the fourth one, especially this counterattack damage. When you're getting swarmed, you're going to be glad that you had this. Now if you are an older player and you actually do have garrison commanders, even commanders that are a little bit outdated, right, you still can make use of them for your city garrison. Things like Gorgo, if you have Gorgo, she's not outdated obviously, but things like Zenobia, older garrisons, things like Constantine, right? Like look on your account and see if you have some of these older garrison commanders that maybe you can throw on your wall, and it's better than nothing, right? It's better than literally not having a garrison at all. And what I would recommend also is you can set multiple garrisons here, right? You can actually set up like, okay, this is what I want my primary garrison to be. If this is not in my city, then pick this one. If this is not in my city, pick this one. And a lot of these are a bit redundant. My Gorgo's never going to leave my city, I know that, so like I kind of have multiple set up here, and then I can swap between them if I want to. Either way, make sure you have something here and make sure that it makes sense. So it might be the case that you're in the super early game and maybe you only have like Sun Tzu, throw him on the wall, right? Sun Tzu with Kusunoki, for example. Kusunoki's nice because he can cleanse those debuffs. He also gives you 7% counterattack damage when he's on your city. Or maybe Ulji Mundok because he gives you extra defense. This is universal for all troop types, right? Imhotep is actually a great choice as well here because of the active skill. Also, he gives you 7% health. This is for all troop types. You also can reduce the attacker's skill damage. There's a lot to like about Imhotep on your wall as well. Heracles is fantastic. 10% more damage when it's your city garrison is really, really good stuff here, especially because he gives you a really nice shield and you reduce the attacker's normal damage by 3 seconds. Very tanky Pericles on your wall, okay, at least for an epic commander. But my point is, no matter how far into the game you are, there's some commanders that are better than others for putting on your wall. Of course, the moment that you have legendary commanders that are relevant for your wall, use them instead of epics, obviously, right? Like Seong-Gye is a garrison commander who really is not like all about garrisons, but nice circular AoE, big damage, is way better than the epic commander damage that you'll get. Another thing to remember here is that if you're in the late game, it's possible that you might be able to squeeze a little bit more out of these commanders by going ahead and getting their museum relics, right? You can grab Charles Martel's relic. 50% infantry attack is going to be really nice. Even if only a third of your units are infantry, it's still going to be something there. So this is never something that you really should spend sculptures on, right? Like I wouldn't recommend spending your sculptures on a commander exclusively for city garrisons, but there's ways that you can squeeze value out of commanders you already have without spending sculptures. And as always, make sure these commanders have equipment on them, okay? Even if you only craft, like for example, my Minamoto, I only use him for running forts, right? I do barbarian forts with him and I kill barbs out in the world, but I at least have some green and blue pieces on here. And I know easier said than done, especially in the early game, but like these pieces they give you more stats than you think, and it will make a difference if it's on your wall. So again, right now I have this gear on my Trajan because I have him in Canyon, but if I were to have somebody on my wall, this is like my just throwaway extra set. I just throw this on my wall commander and then I'm good to go. Finally, don't forget to set talents for your primary commander on your wall as well. A couple of really great options, especially for infantry commanders, is Call of the Pack, because under 50% you gain 6% defense, and that's for all troop types, which is very, very good. You also gain some more normal damage here, which is nice, and you have Undying Fury at the beginning of the tree. A couple of other things that work for your city garrison specifically are Nowhere to Turn. This is actually really nice. Whenever you're hit with a basic attack, you gain rage, and if you're getting swarmed, which you probably are, that's a great place to start. Also, Know Thy Enemy could be a game changer as well, because as a city garrison commander, you take 9% less damage while surrounded, which there's a good chance that you're going to be surrounded as well. So a couple of these talents over here only work in city garrisons. Make sure that you take them because they are pretty good. And of course, put some throwaway armaments on here as well. Okay, I would not use staggered formation. Make sure you use something like, hollow square or something, but just put stats there for anything, please. Tip number 4 has to do with your hospital. Now, of course, if you're zeroed, your hospital is going to be full, and one of the cool things that you can do is called batch healing your hospital. Now, this does take quite a while. It takes some patience, and you do typically have a limit on the amount of instant helps that you can get from your alliance. Okay, but one thing that you can do is heal your hospital about an hour and a half at a time. Why is this? Well, if you're in an alliance, then Together We Rise is an alliance piece of technology here, and at level 5 it gives you 2 extra minutes of speed up time when you receive a help, and alliance helps fill the progress bar by either 1% or a minimum of 1 minute every single time. So you are guaranteed per help 3 minutes worth of healing speed. Okay, and you can get 30 helps. So what's 30 times 3? That is 90 minutes. You can get 90 minutes of hospital healing speed for free every single time that you heal your hospital, right? And so if you heal your hospital about an hour and a half at a time, you are guaranteed to be able to go through that instantly. As long as there are 30 people online to press that button, you're instantly going to get your hospital 90 minutes at a time. Now I know this is going to take a really long time, especially if it's 390,000 units. It's going to take a while, but you can heal your hospital for the cost of the resources and no speed ups, right? And you can go through and so put something on your second monitor or throw something up on the TV, watch a YouTube video, watch an Omniarch video, throw on a movie, whatever, and just do those 30 helps, batch it at a time. And then once you reach your 1000 help limit, which you can see right here, then maybe you can either speed up the rest or you just come back the next day at reset, whatever, and you do it again. It's important to know that when your hospital is full, do not hit barbarians. Okay, this is a common mistake that people make, is that their hospital's full because of fighting or whatever. They attack a barb to do their dailies or whatever the case might be, and what do you know, your barb just gave you dead because your hospital is full. You can't get sev wounds if your hospital is full, so you're actually getting dead troops by hitting barbs. That's not, you don't want to do that. Okay, and of course this goes without saying, but don't go fighting in KVK when your hospital is full. Obviously the only exception to that would be if you plan on migrating after your KVK and you want your power to be as low as possible, that way you can use the fewest amount of passport pages, then okay, you might as well go for it. You've already been zeroed, like who cares, just do it, right? But you're not gonna have any, if you're zeroed, you're not gonna have any troops to fight with anyway, so you're gonna have to heal that hospital to some capacity, unless you're training before you're healing, which makes no sense. It's cheaper to heal, by the way, if you didn't know. Tip number 5 will depend on you and your relationship with your alliance, and this is going to be in the form of goodwill. What is goodwill? That is just good favor that you've earned from your friends in your alliance. Okay, if you've been zeroed, sometimes your alliance will have your back. Sometimes they will be willing to give you some number of resources because some people have extra. Maybe they couldn't fight as much this KVK because they had real life things going on and they couldn't fight as much as they thought, so they've got extra resources. They'll donate some resources to you, right? And that can help you build back your army. Or some alliances have what is called an alliance bank, where they just have they pool all their resources in 1 or 2 cities, and they keep these cities just in reserve in case players in the alliance need resources. They can go ahead and give them some extra resources. Now of course this will depend on, like I said, your relationship with your alliance, and have you been carrying your fair share of the weight, right? Have you been contributing to your alliance? Is there a reason for them to help you, or are you dead weight, right? If you have some goodwill with your alliance, there's a good chance that somebody will be generous enough to give you some resources. And if the roles are reversed and you've got plenty of resources, maybe give a couple of mil to your local free-to-play who got zeroed. It could mean a lot to them. And of course this goes without saying, but the more times you get zeroed, the less likely your alliance is going to help you. Okay, because they are giving you resources from their pool, their bank, or their personal accounts, and they expect to get some value out of that, some return. They expect you on the battlefield as soon as you can be on the battlefield to help return that favor and push with the open field and join rallies, join garrisons. And if they're going to give you resources to heal your hospital and train more troops, you need to fulfill your end of the bargain. So if you keep getting zeroed, well, don't expect any help, because they're wasting their resources on you. And so why would you do that? So tip number 5 is, don't expect this, but it doesn't hurt to ask if you feel that you have contributed a sufficient amount to your alliance. Tip number 6 comes in the form of rebuilding your army. And one thing that might be tempting is, as soon as you can, training back your army, training your troops, using your speed ups. And I'm going to warn you, that is not a good strategy. I know it's frustrating, I know it's embarrassing, and you want to get back up to the power that you were at before as soon as possible, but there are better ways to do it. For example, we have the Mightiest Governor event, right? If you are going to train back a ton of your troops, you might as well time it with a mightiest governor event, as long as you know your alliance or your kingdom allows this, right? You know, a lot of alliances or kingdoms have a set structure for mightiest governor. You might be able to reach out and say, hey, I was zeroed, I'm gonna train back anyway, can I train during mightiest governor to get a commander, right? Of course, if your kingdom doesn't set the mightiest governor, then just do whatever you want, train then, and you know, try to get your hands on a commander that really matters, right? Of course, you know, Hera is a little bit old at this point. I probably wouldn't go for Hera at this point, not to say he's not good, but like he's getting old, right? So maybe don't do it during a leadership mightiest governor, but you can get some pretty cool commanders in the form of rally or garrison commanders if you want. Otherwise, there are events that are more so like power events, right, where they literally just give you some amount of universal legendary commander sculptures for increasing your power. And so you would want to train your troops during those events, and maybe you snag first place, you get 20 sculptures, you feel good about it. There's also alliance mobilization. When alliance mobilization comes around, I believe it's every month, then you can train your troops during alliance mobilization, and that's going to get you some nice rewards and get you some goodwill with your alliance, because you're going to contribute a ton of points to that. There's also zenith of power. If there's an upcoming zenith of power for a city skin that you really care about, well then, hey, maybe it's about time that you try to get your hands on a zenith, because you're gonna train those troops anyway. You might as well try to get something out of it. Maybe KVK is coming up and you have pre-KVK, and you can train a bunch of troops during pre-KVK, and that's going to help your alliance's standing for that KVK as well, right? So there's plenty of opportunities to train a ton of troops and get some really nice value out of it, and really all it takes is a little bit of patience. At some point there's gonna be an event that comes around that you will benefit from training troops. It's gonna happen, it's gonna be there, okay? Even if it's as simple as a bastion, you get some amount of, you know, crystals and stuff from completing a bastion for training troops, right? Try to rebuild your army during these events, especially if they overlap. That's way better, right? Try to get as much value out of retraining your army as possible. Tip number 7 has to do with your efficiency when it comes to training back your army. So we just talked about when to train and how to get value. Now let's talk about some tricks that you can use to train those troops to get as many as possible. Okay, first of all, if you have an alliance or a kingdom that will give you the Duke title, at least for short periods of time, you can get 10% troop training speed by training with the Duke, right? And so this is a no-brainer. If nobody is using this title, maybe you ask for it so you can batch train quite a bit. Likewise, look for a training rune. You can grab a rune of War Drum and get, you know, 5, 7, 10, maybe even 15% troop training speed just by walking over here and grabbing this. And you can stack these buffs. You can stack this with Duke, and that's plus 20% training speed. Pretty nice, maybe even 25. If you're really training a ton of troops, you can even consider switching to the Germany civilization, or maybe you were already Germany because it was off season. You might want to switch to Germany, get another 5% troop training speed. It might help you a lot. If your kingdom has a reason to train troops, for example, maybe KVK is coming up, maybe the kingdom will use a troop training speed buff, and everyone in your kingdom is going to get that 10% troop training speed. Now, a lot of times, and I can speak from experience here, the leaders in my kingdom will often let us know in advance, hey, at, you know, 15 UTC, we're going to be popping this troop training buff, and they'll let us know 12-24 hours in advance, so that way everyone kind of knows, like, okay, I'm going to plan around that, so I'm going to train my troops tomorrow when I log in, or I'll train them when I get home. We'll have that 4-hour window of troop training speed. And again, these are all ways that you gain troop training speed for free. This is free as long as, you know, you're not paying for it, your kingdom is paying for it. Being the Germany civilization is free. You can change your civilization through a civ change item that you can get from your alliance shop. I believe this costs like 2 million currency or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but getting a rune, getting the Duke title, these are all free things, right? So even if you're free to play, you can increase your troop training speed by like 35% or more for free if you just time it right with a couple of different things. Also, before every KVK begins, you're going to get an event that comes around called Lucky Stall. And this event, when you get these different tokens, you can spend them and get some amount of resource reduction on training your troops, which is actually huge. So what I would recommend is try to shoot for 40 or 50%. I feel like the last couple of times this has come around, I've always gotten 50%. Like at some point, usually you roll the 50% at some point, right? So you choose the training speed right here, you grab the 50% if you can, or you settle for 40%, whatever the case might be, and then you can batch train a ton of tier 5 units at a reduced cost, and you can save up to 50 million of food or wood, 37.5 million of stone, or 20 million gold, right? So it's not much, but it's definitely something, and you might as well get that discount. And to my point earlier about when you should train, this Lord of War event is one of those events that I was talking about where you get, I think it's 20 universal sculptures if you come in first place for getting the most amount of power or troop power or something like that. Tip number 8 is more so a meta tip, but this is very important to remember, and that is that you must continue to be active after getting zeroed. Now that your account is a bit weaker and you've had a bit of an embarrassing moment here, okay, what you want to do is prove to your alliance and prove to your kingdom that you still can bring value. And if you get zeroed and you start playing less and less and less, well, now it's like, okay, now they're weaker and they're not here as much, so we can't rely on them. That's not going to look good, right? You want to be able to prove that you can still provide value while being weaker and while you are rebuilding your city. Alliances and kingdoms in Rise of Kingdoms are only healthy when people are there and they're communicating, they're in chat, they're in Discord, they're making YouTube video, whatever the case, however you contribute to your alliance or your kingdom or your community, try to do that more. Okay, jump in that chat a little bit more, jump in the Discord a little bit more, join voice calls if people are there, try to participate in events. If you have, you know, if you heal enough of your hospital, try to participate in as many events as possible. Offer to help your alliance run these events, right? I know that management in Rise of Kingdoms is a big deal. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of times it takes a small army of people to run an effective kingdom or alliance. And so offer to your alliance or offer your kingdom your assistance. Say, hey, you know, I don't have many troops, but I can help plan and organize the next event, right? I can schedule the next Korok ceremony bosses, right? Like there's these little events that are like it requires planning that, you know, these alliance leaders can really use help with. You can be online to set down the alliance plot when people are complaining that, oh my god, it's gone, it's over, someone put down the next gold node, right? You could be that guy to be online and drop that gold node the second that it's gone. You know what I mean? Prove that there are ways that you can be valuable by being online and being present more often. And finally, you know, there's still ways that you can participate in war. Even if you only have a couple of troops, you can still join a flag build, right? There's going to be times where your alliance or your kingdom is pushing into a zone and they need someone to build those flags. Those flags need to build as fast as possible. So even if you only have one army of cavalry, it's 220,000 units, great, throw it in a building flag, help in that way. Use your remaining gathering troops, your remaining siege, and gather the nodes that are showing up in territory that are preventing people from teleporting. Like that's a really important job and role that you can play in war that doesn't necessarily require that you have 5-7 armies full of tier 5 units, right? It's still valuable to be doing those things. And furthermore, you can still support by joining a rally, joining a garrison. Yes, I know you don't have that many troops left to lose, but you can still join those rallies and garrisons if you're comfortable with losing a couple of more troops, and you can still help in that way. And again, this is all part of tip number 8, which is prove to your kingdom and alliance that you're going to be active, you're still helpful, you're still useful, and maybe, hey, maybe if you could do these things, they'll throw you some extra resources like I said earlier. And tip number 9 is a tip for the whales. Now I saved this for the very end of the video because I know a lot of you are not going to fall into this category, but when you do get zeroed, there are typically a couple of bundles that will pop up and you will see them as soon as you log in, and of course that is none other than the infamous Fate Changer bundles. Now the Fate Changer bundle comes in multiple sizes. The one that most people are familiar with, at least in the end game, is the $100 bundle, and oftentimes this is pretty good value. And the reason that this is good value is because if you come into the shop here, you'll notice that in order to get the 25,000 gems for $100, you have to buy your way up to the $100 tier, which means you have to buy the $5, the $10, the $20, the $50, and the $100 bundles, right? But with the Fate Changer, you could just immediately buy the $100 bundle, and that's going to get you a ton of gems. And the gem value for the $100 bundle is typically where a lot of the value is, right? I know really if we're talking like dollar for dollar, things like the daily special offer for $3, these are really some of the best value in the game. But when we're talking about raw gem value, usually the $100 bundles are the best. Why? Well, I mean, just look at this. Recast and Reforge. This is $10 for 2,200 gems. So okay, you move the decimal point over 1. So if this was a $100 bundle, you would expect 22,000 gems, but the $100 bundle has 25,000 gems, right? So you actually get more gems than you would point for point. Same thing with Armory and Alchemy. This is for $50, you get 12,000. So okay, multiply that by 2, you would get 24,000. But the $100 bundle is 25,000. So you actually get more gems per dollar, typically at the higher end, even though the items in the bundle might decrease in actual value, right? So there's a lot more that goes into this. This is not supposed to be like a spending guide or anything like that, but I'm just pointing out why a lot of people like the $100 bundle, because you don't have to buy your way up to it. You just instantly get $100, 25,000 gems. I mean, that is literally what it costs here. Of course, the first purchase bonus is double, but you get my point. And beyond that, there's usually multiple tiers of that bundle. So I know that when I got zeroed, all of the different fate changers popped up, and I think it was 3 or 4 different fate changers. I think there's a $10 one, a $20 one, there might be a $50 one, and a $100 one. I don't remember exactly. There might even be a $5 bundle. I believe I bought all of them when I got zeroed. I think it was like $185 with tax. It's $200 if you pay tax on digital goods. Some people don't, like if you live in California. Either way, I ended up buying all those bundles. Now, are they the best value bundles in the game? No, they're not, but it is typically a little bit better value than some of the other bundles that you can get in here when it comes to training and healing your hospital down. So again, if you're a spender and you want decent value on a bundle, you can buy the fate changer bundles, and that might help you a little bit when it comes to recovering your troops. But guys, that's gonna do it for this video. Hopefully this video helped you. If you've been zeroed and you don't know exactly what to do, what should you do next, or are you absolutely cooked? Hopefully this video helped you realize that you are not cooked and there's plenty that you can do. You can still enjoy the game and all is not lost. Most of your progress will remain on your account, and you can use this as a learning opportunity. And hopefully when you're rebuilding your army and training back those troops, you can get a lot of value out of it and maybe get your hands on some commander sculptures along the way. But if you made it all the way to the end of this video, consider dropping a thumbs up on it. It really helps out the channel a ton. It helps get this video out into the YouTube algorithm, so other Rise of Kingdoms players might see it when they inevitably potentially maybe get zeroed in the future. And comment down below any tips that I missed. Are there any things that I didn't mention in this video that are really important for players when they do get zeroed? Like I said, it's been a couple of years since I've been zeroed, so I don't remember exactly everything that I did, but all these tips are a great place to start. And hopefully if you guys have extra tips, put them in the comment section down below. And like I said earlier, consider subscribing. If you made it all the way to the end here, we are officially on the road to 100,000 subscribers. We are so close, and if everyone who watched this video who isn't subscribed actually did, we would probably get to 100,000 subscribers by next month, because typically I have over 100,000 regular viewers. I can see it in the analytics. It's just some of you guys are not subscribed, so consider subscribing. And with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been Omniarch. I will talk to you guys again soon. Peace.